Thank you for joining us today. This is Jen Petruso, and we're with her for our Parish and Community episode. Thanks so much for taking some time to be with us today, Jen.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be with you.
So tell me how you got involved with College Church.
So I actually started getting involved in with College Church back when I was in college. I was a student at SLU. So like a lot of SLU students, what was the 10 p.m. Mass at the time and now is the 9 p.m. student Mass on Sunday nights was a really huge part of my college career and also of my own faith journey. And so after I graduated and left for a couple of years for graduate school, when I made my way back to St. Louis to start working at SLU, being a part of the College Church community was a really natural fit. I knew that I wasn't wanting to spend all my time at the 9 p.m. Mass anymore since those were my students, but found my home over the course of a few years within the College Church community, and I've been there ever since. So, well.
So would you say that 10 p.m. Mass was a formational experience for you in your faith journey?
Definitely. I remember going that first Sunday of my first year of college, and it was standing room only. I think my floor all went together. I was on the 14th floor of Greasedeck Hall up in the nosebleeds up there, and we all walked over together, and we walked in a half an hour early and was already standing room only. And to see a church full of young people was something I'd never seen before. So that was a really poignant moment for me to recognize that the church is really alive and the young church has a lot to offer.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I could contribute and be a part of the community in a way that I had never experienced in my home parish. So it was really cool.
So what are some ways that you're involved now?
So a handful of things. One of the ways that I've been participating in College Church these days is through my participation on the Pastoral Council for the last few years, which has been a really, really wonderful experience. I've been grateful for the leaders that we've had and the direction that the council has been able to turn our parish towards. So sitting on that has been a great gift. And then I have also been a part of the anti-racism work that the parish has been doing for the last few years, which feels even more important today, these last few days and weeks. And that work was started really in earnest after Michael Brown was killed. And then a few years later, there was a group of us that started getting together to discern the ways that we're called to not just be not racist and good white people, as our parish is not exclusively, but majority white. So how do we not just be racist, but how do we be actively anti-racist? And frankly, it's one of the reasons why I've stayed with the parish and with our community, among others, but the work that we've done is still unfolding. There still is a lot of work to do, but I've been grateful to be a part of a community that has prioritized that work, not just in the last week, but for the last few years and even before that.
That's great. Yeah, I think that in the experience I've had of watching how people respond to that, I've been really grateful to see that there seems to be a welling up of support for being vocally anti-racist at this time at the Catholic Church. So I'm very glad for the work that and I think that that takes some ground work being put into place, and so I think that the fruit of your labors is starting to show up over these.
I hope so. It's really, really hard. It's painful and it's hard work, and I think it's what the gospel calls us to. And for us as a community to respond together feels really prophetic and powerful. And I say all of that knowing that there's clearly so much more we have to do. So we're learning and we're growing and we're figuring it out together.
When you are in conversation with folks and you're talking about College Church and they're like, oh, tell me about that parish. What are some of the things that come to mind?
Yeah, one of the first things I note is that I express gratitude for the great sense of community that I've come to know, for an openness for people to participate. I also am a lector. I've worked a little bit with our college church young adult group and helping support that work. And I feel like when I come to Mass, I always see people that I not just know we sit next to each other, but I know who they are and I know their stories. And that is something that I think is really a great gift, especially for a parish that is as spread out as we are and as big as we are. Even the church itself is really big, so it's easy to sit far away from other humans in the pews, depending on how packed the Mass is that day. So I think the first thing that I note is the community. I also would name too that I think there is an openness to being prophetic in a world where the gospel is calling us to keep building the kingdom of God. And I think it's hard, that's hard work, like I've said already. And I think that I note a willingness within our community to do that. Not just, I mean, Father Dan's preaching is a really great example, and many have noted how important that is, but even beyond just preaching on Sundays, the commitment of our community to building the kingdom is something that I can't say enough about. And truly, if I think, if I were in another parish, I think I would be really disillusioned, but the community commitment to building up the kingdom, or as Father Greg Boyle, Jesuit priest out in LA, would say, building the kingdom, building kinship. I've had a sense of that within our parish and with our parish's relationships to other communities within the city. Choir's great too. Who can't note that? I'm grateful for having really beautiful liturgies to be able to attend to.
So I purposely kept this question very broad because, there's lots of holy men and women in our lives, but are there particular holy men and women in our tradition or that you've encountered in your time that are particularly inspiring to you?
Yeah, lots of them. When I was in college, I started learning for the first time about Monsignor Oscar Romero, who is the Archbishop of San Salvador in the 80s or 70s and 80s, and learning about the ways that the gospel called him to care for and act out and speak out for and on behalf of the poor and the vulnerable is something that has continued to inspire my faith journey. To have someone in such a position of leadership who was then martyred for his work on behalf of the gospel. He's been a really important person in my own faith journey. Sister Dorothy Stang, who is not known about by too many people, but in Cincinnati, she's sort of a local Catholic hero, and Angela and I are both from Cincinnati, so maybe you've heard of her too. But she is a sister of Notre Dame de Namur, which I went to the Catholic high school there, not Notre Dame, which is a Catholic high school founded by those same sisters. And Sister Dorothy Stang was an activist in the Amazon rainforest in Brazil. And she was also martyred in, I think, 2005 for her work with the indigenous people, helping them to try to reclaim their land rights and fight on behalf of ecological justice and human dignity for those people too. So those two come immediately to mind. I could think of dozens and dozens of others, but in a particular way, Sister Helen Prejean is another big one for me because I've been pretty impassioned by the work of criminal justice and the ways that we're called to respond to our brothers and sisters who are incarcerated. Dorothy Day, and then too, I think the holy women and men right now who are the folks on the front lines, our Black community, or Black activists who are calling for justice. I think they are doing the holy work. They are doing theological work that is inspiring me and challenging me every day.
Good, thank you. So on a lighter note, I always like to ask, because we know each other at College Church, but there's always something that maybe folks don't know about their people in the pews next to them. So what's a fun fact that maybe your fellow parishioners don't yet know about you?
You sent me these questions before we started, and I thought, I need to think about that because I never know. I didn't think about it. I guess, so one of my dad is a Delta pilot, now retired, so he was for a really long time. So I got the travel bug from him, and one of the things that I sort of been committed to in my own faith journey and personal journey is travel. I love travel. But to be able to go on lots of pilgrimages has been a big part of my story. And so after I got my first job at SLU, I had my summers free working as a campus minister, and I decided that every summer I was going to have an adventure. And that very first summer, with all of the money that I had saved from my 1 year of full-time employment, I went and hiked the Camino de Santiago.
Cool.
3 days hiking with people from around the world, and tearing my body to shreds, but I really enjoyed it. And then I've also been able to go on pilgrimage to Rome to visit the Vatican and so many other holy places. And then most recently to the Holy Land. With just one friend and I, we did it, just the two of us, which is not normal. I don't think most people go with a tour group, but we rented a car and buzzed around Israel and Palestine. And we went out 2 by 2, the way that the disciples did. And I've learned a lot from the people that I've met along the way. And I'm so grateful for the great gift and privilege that I've had to be able to see the world and and know the people of God through the joy of traveling.
That's wonderful.
So I don't know if that's a fun fact. People might know that about me, but that's what I have.
I didn't know it about you, so.
Yeah. There you go.
Jen, thank you for your time today. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you around.
Absolutely. Hopefully we can see each other soon.